G'day Teacher Geeks. I start every unit the exact same way with a very simple activity I call Key Terms Traffic Lights. Real basic, I take a list of all the most important terms that I'm going to try to teach in that unit, and I put it on a simple A4 document. I'll put a link in the description, which hopefully will be a Google force copy, and you can use this template. Feel free to use it, adapt it, improve it. By the way, if you figure out a way to make this better, please pop a comment if you've got ideas. Like, one of the reasons I started this channel is to learn from other teachers how I can make my stuff better. So please do leave a comment if you like the resource or if you find this helpful. Now, so the key terms traffic lights, it's real basic. It's a list of the key terms with 3 columns. And the first column is before the unit, and then the middle, end of the unit, and then finally at the end of the course, maybe at the end of the year. So it's a list of the most important key terms, and then students use colored pencils and they simply color code it. Now, you might realize by now I'm quite a fan of color coding. So green means I know it, I could teach it to someone else. Yellow, maybe I know it, but I'm a little unsure. Red, I've got no idea what this word means. And so what I'll see in the beginning of the unit, I'll give students 2 or 3 minutes. I'll see a lot of yellows and reds, and I tell the students, look, that's fine. Before they start, I explain, it's okay for you not to know this stuff. We're just beginning the unit. And so they color code it, and I walk around the room, and I might have to remind them, hey, remember, this isn't a coloring in competition, right? Some students will spend a minute per word getting the boxes exactly perfect. Anyway, they color it in, and then once they've finished, I tell students to partner up to find another student who they can help explain one of these key terms. So if they're a green, and then they should, for one of the words, they should find a student who maybe is a yellow or a red. Right, so I'm using my criminology example here, and let's say, for example, it's the PFC or the VMPFC. Now, if a student knows what that part of the brain is and what it does, and they feel like, oh, I could explain the ventromedial prefrontal cortex to someone else, well, then and someone else colors it red or yellow, then they would explain, oh, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, like that's this front part of the brain, and it helps us to think clearly, and it inhibits our impulsive decision making, etc., etc. Right? And vice versa. Maybe that student looks through their list and they go, oh, I'm a red for mindfulness. What's mindfulness? And the student's like, no, I don't know that one either. And I try to encourage them, just partner up with 1 student per word. So then hopefully they're bouncing around the room and talking to lots of different students. And that takes about 3 or 4 minutes. And so that's it. That's how I start every unit. It takes about 5 minutes. Now, the temptation is to then get everyone back in the class and say, okay, any of those words we don't know, what would you like explained? And I always have to fight this temptation because this is the beginning of the unit. And so they don't know any of this stuff. And so trying to explain it now out of context wouldn't work. So I need to be patient and just wait until the end of the unit. And that's where we come back to these key terms, traffic lights. And this is where I really like this activity, where at the end of the unit, they'll do it again. Now, to be honest, this mostly happens when I start the next unit, because I remember, oh wait, before we do the key terms for this one, we have to go back and finish off the last key terms traffic lights. And then that's where students will go through and they'll color code again. Now, here's one of the reasons I like this activity. Hopefully, students will see they're going from red and yellow to a lot more greens. Now, the hope here is that this boosts their confidence, their self-esteem. They can say, hey, look, I didn't know that. Now I know it. If some of my students are watching this, I think I've got 15 subscribers right now. Half of them are my students. Tell me what you think. Does that work? Does it not work? I'd love to hear your thoughts, be honest. But anyway, they hopefully they're seeing that, oh, they didn't know it and now they knew it. The other reason I like creating this and sitting down at the beginning of the unit and really figuring out really carefully what are the key terms that I want to teach is if I'm doing a key terms quiz or a test at the end of the unit, then now I've got perfect alignment, right, between my outcomes and my assessment. I know exactly what I'm trying to teach, and that's exactly what I'm going to assess. And I don't have to create other study resources for my students. It's there in this one document. I can say, hey, we've got a key terms quiz coming up. You know the key terms, they're that list in the front of the workbook. And the students now know it. And then they have the confidence, oh, right, these are the words I need to know. And I don't think we can overestimate the importance of key terminology, right? It sounds, like just rote learning and memorization, these key terms, but actually I consider these key terms are the building blocks of the foundations of the stuff I'm trying to teach, right? It's the crux, it's the foundations upon which all the other critical thinking and deeper analysis are going to rely on. For example, in this unit on criminology. So I'm teaching criminology, or I'm teaching biological psychology through the theme of criminal behavior, aggression really. I need these students to know an fMRI, an MRI, the prefrontal cortex, serotonin, testosterone, the MOA gene. When we look at cures, we're looking at things like mindfulness, tryptophan. I need them to know what these things are. And I agree totally. If I was to only teach these key terms and not worry about any other deeper analysis or any other critical thinking or any other application or why this knowledge is relevant, then yeah, this is a waste of time. But these key terms form the foundation upon which we can build into the deeper analysis, right? How can we go into understanding how do we improve or reduce criminal behavior if we don't know what an MRI, fMRI, or prefrontal cortex is, or the amygdala, or the amygdala's function? Because those are some key equipment and tools and knowledge that we need to now know and apply in order to, reduce violence and to solve the problem of, say, criminal behavior. And that's where I come back to this point about content being king, especially with this. Why am I pre-selecting this knowledge, right? And I tirade a lot against this idea of individualized education, and also the idea where students come in and the classroom should be a place where they're free to explore what they would like to. Well, really, the reality is that I'm teaching to a very prescribed set of exams for IB psychology. And the most effective way for me to teach that is for me to spend hours upon hours of filtering through the most important parts of the brain, the most important hormones, the most important biological factors, the most important building blocks for my students to acquire in the limited time we have to then be able to get deeper into the content, into the deeper analysis and critical thinking. So that's another reason why I like sitting down at the start of a unit and figuring out, all right, what are the must-have essential vocabulary terminology we have to have here. Another reason I like doing this at the beginning of the unit is if I have the list of words written out, it makes planning other content really easy. It makes planning other games like charades and Pictionary and a lot of other activities which I'll explain in future videos. It just makes it so much simpler because I've got the list there and I can refer back to it. And we can come back to this list again and again and again. Crossword puzzle, another one, right? It's the same words in the crossword puzzle. So there we have it. Key terms, traffic lights, real simple. It's a type of activity that takes the thinking off me, puts it onto the students. I can stand back, roam around, relax, and I can see them doing the heavy cognitive lifting. But it does require me to do the planning behind the scenes, and I think that's what good teaching looks like a lot of the time. A lot of my planning and preparation into carefully creating resources and activities, but yet in the classroom, I can try to be the guide on the side, right? So it's teacher directed, student focused. That's what I try to work towards. Right, if you've got some ideas on how I can improve that, please put a link in the description. No, put a comment in the comments. Thanks.